This is a $4,500 laptop. It's packed with powerful components, it has a gorgeous display, and it's extremely well built. This right here is the Razer Blade 16, and it's been one of my favorite form factors in forever. And not only does it give us our first look at how the RTX 50 series translates to the mobile platform, but it does something that Razer has never done before in a laptop this size. But is it worth the price? Well, we're gonna help you figure that out and more right here, right now on Robeytech, after a message from our sponsor. The Ducky One X keyboard introduces the world's first induction switches built for lightning fast precision and versatility with multiple actions per key, adjustable actuation, and more. On top of that, the One X is a well-built keyboard with Ducky signature Quack Mechanics Plus 7-layer dampening. It's got high-quality PTB keycaps and plate-mounted stabilizers. It can even serve as a wired or wireless keyboard. The Ducky One X is available in both full size and 60%, and you should absolutely go learn about what induction switches are over at ducky.global today. If you choked hearing that price on the front end, I'm sorry. This is not a laptop for the faint of budget, and it's never been. And to be fair, we haven't really seen Razer fashion themselves as a budget choice for pretty much anything. What we have seen, however, is Razer's pursuit of building premium laptops with, of course, equally premium price tags. Is there value in it? Well, that's something only you can decide. What we can tell you with the Razer Blade 16 is that Razer built this thing with an extensive range of high-quality parts and features like a gorgeous OLED display, THX certified audio, an incredibly responsive keyboard, and a build quality that we've only seen a few manufacturers deliver, and one of those is Apple. But in the sea of exceptional laptops we've seen over this past year, does it stand out enough to justify the price for you? Before we dive into the details, we want to say thank you to Razer for lending us this new Razer Blade 16 so that we can check it out and talk to you about it here today. Let's get a better idea of what we're looking at, starting with the physical dimensions. The Blade 16 measures in at just shy of 14 inches wide, about 10 inches deep, about 0.69 inches tall, and it weighs around 4.7 pounds. For context, Razer says that the 2025 Razer Blade 16 is around 30% smaller by volume and around 12% lighter than their 2024 version. When we look at comparisons, the Blade 16 is very similar in size to the Asus Zephyrus G16, but slightly heavier. And that was one of our top reviewed laptops of last year. And on top of that, you can check out the full review for that right here. Now, that extra weight likely comes from the solid CNC milled aluminum chassis the Blade 16 is built inside of, which gives the laptop the same sturdy design we've come to expect from Razer. Unfortunately, the black anodized aluminum still captures fingerprints like their Pokemon, and it's something they continue to improve on, but yes, this can look a bit greasy after some heavy use. Now, we mentioned this in the intro, but the Razer Blade 16 comes in a variety of configurations ranging from around $3,000 all the way up to $4,900. So the $4,500 version falls into the more expensive side of that range. So what does $4,500 get you in a Razer laptop? Well, let's start with the CPU. The Blade 16 comes with AMD's Ryzen AI 9HX 370 processor, but there are also versions that come with the HX 365 instead. While this isn't our first look at these CPUs, what's interesting is that this is Razer's first time using AMD CPUs in their 16-inch laptops. As for the GPU, the new Blade 16 uses NVIDIA's RTX 50 series mobile GPUs, ranging from the RTX 5070 Ti mobile all the way up to the RTX 5090 mobile. This model right here is equipped with the RTX 5090 mobile with 24 gigabytes of VRAM and a TGP of 160 watts. So there is plenty of GPU power in this thing, but again, for $4,500, it should bring the beef. As for the display, the Blade 16 uses a beautiful 16-inch OLED display with a QHD Plus or 1600p resolution, 240 Hz refresh rate, and gorgeous color representation. It also has 5 pre-calibrated presets for color in case you're using the laptop for color grading, photo editing, or you're just using it to see what the difference is between DCI-P3 and the sRGB color gamut. Now, visuals are one thing, but the audio experience of the Razer Blade 16 is equally stunning with a 6-speaker design. Whether it's listening to music or gaming, the audio experience was pretty spectacular thanks to the THX certified audio system. Not only that, the Blade 16 has a 7-band EQ and multiple presets that can be controlled through the Razer Synapse software, which, speaking of Synapse, Razer's controller software provides a wide range of options for controlling the Blade 16. This includes everything from setting up the 5 macro keys on the right side of the keyboard to controlling RGB, sound, and visual profiles, and more. And if you like more, go ahead and slap those like, subscribe, and notification bell buttons here at Robeytech and Robeytech Live, because we're always serving up more. Moving on to RAM, the Razer Blade 16 comes with either 32 gigabytes or 64 gigabytes of LPDDR5X RAM with speeds of 8,000 megatransfers. With these speeds and the Ryzen AI CPU, it shouldn't come as a surprise that the RAM is soldered onto the motherboard. I mean, that's typical for these CPUs. So no upgrading down the road, but you get speedy RAM. And for context, our model has 32 gigabytes. As for storage, this model comes standard with a 2 terabyte NVMe SSD, but there is a secondary NVMe slot in case you want to add more storage in the future. What's awesome about that is that the M.2 slot is super easy to get to if you have a T5 screwdriver. Just remove the 10 easily identifiable screws and remove the backplate with gentle pressure. This is probably one of the easier laptops to upgrade storage in that we've seen in a while. As for connectivity, the Blade 16 has a good mix for a laptop of its size, including 3 USB Type-A ports, 2 USB 4 Type-C ports with power delivery and DisplayPort capabilities, HDMI 2.1, and a microSD card reader. The laptop also offers Wi-Fi 7, which we love to see in modern laptops, and man, it is blazing fast. Now, since we're talking about input, Razer has redesigned the Blade 16's keyboard to allow for deeper travel distance for keys. This change makes the typing experience on the Blade 16 pretty satisfying for a laptop keyboard. And just so you're aware, that's not conjecture, we used the Blade 16 to write a significant portion of the script for this actual video. Now, as for the touchpad, Razer says that they've reduced the size from previous generations, but I gotta be honest, it still feels a bit too big for us. That being said, from a tactile standpoint, the touch surface felt good, albeit unremarkable, which is better than being remarkably bad. And finally, for battery, the Blade 16 has a 90 watt-hour battery with a quick charge capability. This means you can get around 50% of a charge in around 30 minutes and around 80% in just under 50 minutes, thanks to the Blade 16's chunky 280 watt power adapter. Now, as for battery life, we're gonna need that quick charge capability because we were only able to get an average of 4 hours and 6 minutes out of the Blade 16 while using UL Procion's Office Productivity Battery Life benchmark. This was kind of probably one of the the parts that was most disappointing to me. Now, like anything else, your mileage may vary, but even outside of the battery benchmark, we saw similar performance on battery while using the Blade 16 to write the script for this video. Now that we have a picture of the specs and features, let's look at some of the data, starting with gaming. For reference, all the numbers we're about to show you were gathered using the highest available preset in-game at the native 1600p resolution using DLSS and frame generation when available. And here's what we saw. In Black Myth Wukong, we saw an average of 107 frames per second. In Forza Horizon 5, we saw an average of 238 frames per second. In Shadow of the Tomb Raider, we saw an average of 171 frames per second without frame gen. In Cyberpunk 2077, we saw an average of around 222 frames per second with multi-frame generation. And in Star Wars Outlaws, we saw an average of just shy of 207 frames per second with MFG. And finally, in Indiana Jones, we saw averages of around 296 frames per second, again with multi-frame generation. Switching gears to our multiplayer tests, we're shifting settings to low settings without the use of frame generation. Here we saw Marvel Rivals average just shy of 152 frames per second, and in Fortnite that average was just south of 236. Since this is the first time we're seeing a mobile 5090, how does it actually stack up to the desktop 5090? Now, when we compare games that crossed over in our testing, Cyberpunk fell right in between the desktop 5080 and 5090, and Indiana Jones was also right there with the desktop 5090. Marvel Rivals, on the other hand, was nowhere near what we saw from the desktop 5080 and 5090, and Forza also kind of trailed behind. Now keep in mind this is a really small sample set and we've only had a short amount of time with this laptop, so we'll have to do a more in-depth comparison in the future. And again, it's all based on the amount of TGP that we're able to actually use with this laptop and what it can do with the actual 5090 as well. As we continue to test 50 series equipped laptops, we'll have to keep an eye on the comparisons here because it's just not enough data to tell. That being said, we did use the Blade 16 to play games like Space Marine 2, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Destiny 2 outside of our testing, and each experience was absolutely incredible. The one thing that we noticed, and this could have been a game issue, was that the screen didn't report the desktop resolution properly in Final Fantasy VII. Again, the game might not like the 16:10 aspect ratio, but eventually we got it to run at 1440p. Now moving on to other benchmarks, since this laptop is decked out with both AMD and NVIDIA's current flagship mobile CPUs and GPUs, we also looked at how it would handle creator applications like Adobe Photoshop and Premiere. Overall, it had a good showing for a mobile platform, but what we found interesting was that the Blade 16's Premiere score was in line with our recent benchmarks of the 9950X3D, which you can see our video review of right here. Now moving on to thermal performance, at idle the Razer Blade 16 rested at an average of 48 degrees Celsius. Under full CPU load, we saw an average temperature of 78 degrees Celsius. And finally, in our gaming benchmarks, the Blade averaged 80 degrees Celsius on the CPU and around 72 on the GPU. Now something worth pointing out here is that Razer has redesigned their cooling system for the 2025 Blade 16. Now starting with the laptop's backplate, Razer redesigned it with a bump out to help the laptop keep its slender profile while also providing openings for the intake. Razer also expanded the vapor chamber to cover 57% of the motherboard surface area to help with thermal management and paired with a dual fan system. Does this really have a positive impact in overall cooling? Well, considering the Blade 16 never felt hot to the touch while gaming, we think it does something. However, we'll have to see how it compares to other 5090 laptops once we start to see more of them. And that brings us to a question. How is the Razer Blade 16 acoustically? Well, when we look at the numbers, we recorded the Blade 16 running at 42.9 decibels while idle, but under load it hit 65 decibels. But I've got to be honest, this thing gets really loud while gaming. This is one of those cases where the numbers here don't really tell the whole story. If you're sensitive to fan noise, you might struggle with this laptop. All right, it's time to ask the question that we always ask. Do we recommend the Razer Blade 16? And to be honest, I think the better question for this one is, do you like everything you've heard so far? When it comes to Razer laptops, the general consensus is that these are the Windows MacBook Pro, and the new Razer Blade 16 is no exception. It's an incredibly well-built laptop that really does have a premium feel to it that goes beyond its anodized aluminum shell. It's just, once you start to really push this thing, the sound differentiates it from the MacBook because that thing is dang near silent, but this can game. The Ryzen AI 9 HX370 and the RTX 5090 make for a powerhouse combo for gaming and creative tasks in a mobile platform. Not only that, but the performance we saw was complemented well by the OLED screen, audio, and the overall user experience. And when you put it all together, there's a lot about this laptop that really does feel like the pinnacle of what a laptop can be in 2025. But when you start gaming on this thing, it's freaking loud. And this is offset a bit by the power of those speakers, but just be prepared for a whole lot of noise. The other thing to remember here is that we're just starting to see the new hardware roll out with the new 50 series graphics cards and the new CPUs from both Intel and AMD. And with the number of companies upping their quality game in the mobile space, we could see fierce competition in the upper echelon here when it comes to pricing. And Razer could be setting our expectations for what the cost of these laptops is going to be in the new generation. Either that or the Razer Blade 16 is just a really expensive laptop. But if you're someone who needs a laptop that's built to last, and you're the type of person who buys a laptop to last 5 or 10 years, this might be worth you taking a look at. Or if you're somebody who loves to make an impression at the corporate table or in meetings, this is another, head turner. Either way, the newly redesigned Blade 16 lives up to Razer's pedigree. It's thin, it's light, it's super powerful, it's solidly built, and it really did give us an incredible gaming experience. Just make sure you aren't gaming in a room with someone trying to sleep. And with that, we're gonna wrap up our review of the Razer Blade 16. Again, we wanna say thank you to Razer for letting us borrow the Blade 16 for this review. And we wanna know what you think, but one little aside here is we would really love to see a Blade 16 that was paired with a more low-powered model of the Ryzen 9 or Intel Core Ultra CPUs, where we can actually see something similar to the Zephyrus, where we aren't so worried about battery life, but we still get an incredible experience that just, you know what, can have a little bit of a longer battery life. But we want to know what you think. Do you like the thinner redesign of the new Blade 16? Do the sum of its parts and build quality justify the price for you? And what did you think about the performance of the mobile RTX 5090? Let us know all that in the comments below. Now, while you're down there, go ahead and slap that subscribe button with that like button and ring that notification bell so that you get a notification each and every time we post a video like this right here on Robeytech. Now, if you want to continue the conversation about laptops, maybe discuss some other options, head over to our Discord server, discord.gg/Robeytech. It's an amazing place to meet other tech and PC enthusiasts that would love to talk about stuff just like this. And you know what? You might just make a friend while you're there. Also, make sure you follow us on Robeytech on all the other social media platforms. And if you made it this far, I want to say a huge thank you for sticking with me through the video, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.